Is it bad that whenever I see the name Furiosa, I just want to do the Ricola call? Furiosa! Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, released this past weekend in 2024, and is directed by George Miller, who's also behind such films like Mad Max, The Road Warrior, Happy Feet 2, Mad Max Fury Road, and the Justice League Mortal movie that never was. And this film is starring Anya Taylor-Joy, kinda, Tom Burke, Lila Brown, and Chris Hemsworth. Before the time she was played by Charlize Theron in Fury Road, Furiosa was a young little girl living in a green paradise, but was abducted by savage road warriors who are loyal to their leader called Dementis. And as Dementis is trying to get the location of the green place from a young Furiosa, he finds his way to the citadel that is ran by Immortan Joe. And because Joe won't give up the majority of his citadel resources, Dementis decides to take Gastown for his own and to cause a whole bunch of trouble. And in the meantime, Furiosa grows up to be a younger version of a woman than Charlize Theron, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and she is looking to act out her vengeance on Dementis. I'm always a sucker for revenge tales. I don't want to say that it's the easiest or the most common, but it's the most emotional, impactful for me. When you're a kid or when you're younger and something is done terribly to you or to loved ones, family, friends, but they leave you alive, whether it's to torture you or because they don't know that you are still alive, and to have them plan out their revenge for a long period of time so that the person that did them wrong suffers, or they're able to weave themselves into the inner workings of that person so that they can come crumbling down and have a bigger fall in the end. I'm a sucker for those stories, and this is definitely one of them. I wouldn't say it's the best revenge tale that we have seen. It's actually pretty paint-by-numbers standard stuff. And it had a pacing that was a little questionable here and there. There are moments throughout this film that I didn't think that this was a Furiosa story. I thought this was actually going to be a Dementis story because we're spending a lot of time, especially in that first hour, with Dementis. And Taylor-Joy actually doesn't show up until an hour in. For the whole first hour, it's just the kid actor playing Furiosa, which I'll be honest, kind of irked me a little bit. Let me set the record straight, though. This is a solid film. I don't think it is as good as Fury Road was, but it is a solid entry into the whole Mad Max franchise and the Mad Max stories. But I do think that there are some issues with this film, and I think there are a lot of people out there that have been vocal about their issues, and in my opinion, I agree with them when it comes to the pacing. I think the pacing in some points in here was slow, and it didn't have a lot of energy. It just kind of felt we were stagnant, and we were kind of just wandering around in the desert. We have a couple of cool, badass vehicles, which, again, it's cool. It's cool to look at. Chris Hemsworth is driving around this chariot of motorcycles. A chariot of motorcycles. That's freaking awesome. But there are points where I'm wondering, what's the point of this? It looks cool, but I hate it when things just look cool and the reason is not there. Then we finally get to the point where Dementis and Immortan Joe come face to face, and it's a weird arrangement that they have with each other. Dementis is not satisfied with the arrangement, so eventually he's going to take over things. It actually takes him a long time to do it, but I'm pretty sure that's because he's used up all the resources in Gastown, which if that's not a metaphor for current day situations, I don't know what is. But there are definitely some pacing issues, things that maybe could have been edited down or tweaked a little bit to make this have more energy moving forward. A lot of times it just felt like we were stagnant. Now, when we do get Anya Taylor-Joy finally in this movie, I think she does a great performance as Furiosa. It's a very Mad Max-worthy role where the titular character does not have a lot of dialogue, has a lot of physicality and a lot of looking aways and a lot of facial reactions. And Anya Taylor-Joy has one of the most unique and beautiful faces, I think, in Hollywood right now. So if you're going to hire someone to do all of that and perform that way, you pick the right actress to do it. Again, I just wish we would have had her more in this movie. Now, I think the overall star of this film, of course, is George Miller. Everyone loved Fury Road and his use of practical effects and stunt work in that movie, and it continues here. We don't have as much of it in this movie because, again, this is a slower story when it comes to the beginning, but when we get to the moments in the second act when we have the big rig and we have all these, like, paragliders flying around trying to take it. It's a pretty epic and wonderful sequence. Probably tops a couple of the sequences from Fury Road, to be honest. And George Miller is so great with his use of lighting and his use of color. This is filmed in the Australian desert, and it's just all desert, just all sand as far as you can see, but yet George Miller finds a way to make colors vibrant. There's reds and there's really sharp blues in the background, and it makes the screen absolutely beautiful to look at. Furiosa is a solid action movie that I think everyone should check out, especially if you were a fan of Fury Road. Chris Hemsworth is here. He's having a ton of fun. You can absolutely tell it. He has this great prosthetic on his nose. Makes him look like a huge, gigantic rat. He reminded me a lot of Mad Matigan from The Great Mouse Detective. He even sounded like him too. Like when they put the prosthetic on, his voice actually came up here, and he was very nasally. Chris Hemsworth is always great in everything that he does. I just think he has this likable sense of fun about him in every single role, and it continues here. I really enjoyed Furiosa Mad Max Saga. I don't think it's the best film of the year. I know a lot of people really wanted it to be, and I feel like there was a lot of hype around this film in regards to just how great Mad Max Fury Road was, so they're like, oh, this has to be as great or better. It can't be a demotion in any way, and if it is, it's just a failure. And unfortunately, I think that's how a lot of people work nowadays when it comes to ranking things and art that comes out. If it's a sequel or a prequel or has any connection to any existing property, if it's not as good or even better, especially if it's not better than what came before, then it's an absolute failure, and I don't like that. And it's also not true. You can have things that have less impact as the thing that came before it, just as long as the story is compelling. And I think the story is mostly compelling here. Again, there's just some pacing issues, the fact that Anya Taylor-Joy, even though her face is on the poster, doesn't show up until an hour in. I mean, it's the Star Wars effect, really. Luke Skywalker doesn't show up until like 45 minutes into that movie. So it's kind of George Miller's Star Wars trope, I guess, here. I'm trying to come up with excuses for it, and really there's no excuse. But it's still a fun time regardless, and I definitely recommend you check it out. I'm going to give Furiosa a Mad Max Saga 4 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I like it a lot.
So guys, have you seen Furiosa? What did you think about it? What is your ranking of all the Mad Max films, including the saga films like Furiosa? Whatever you thought, comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.